Let me say one thing. I mean, this issue of cost of data collection, I mean, it clearly is not just an issue of resilience measurement, resilience data. This is something that we face day in and day out, like we are asked to do more with less. This is the current environment. So I think this is a part of a broader agenda of making data systems more efficient, more cost effective. But the question here is how it applies to resilience, particularly to the definitions that we are adopting here about resilience. Because if we think about some of the features that we have been discussing about resilience, resilience is a multidimensional concept. Resilience is a dynamic concept. So resilience is a very dynamic concept that's requiring very frequent data collection. Resilience is idiosyncratic, therefore it requires a granularity and resolution. Resilience is usually in a very hard place to reach, like we just said. So where we're interested in resilience is actually hardest place because of distance, conflict, low connectivity. So these have implications for data. I mean, it's not just that they're just words. They're just this one translates in dollars and cents. So now then basically the question becomes or remains. So when you talk about the Cadillac version, there's still, whether it's a Cadillac or it's a Yugo, there's still some basic engineering principle that we need to follow in data collection. And I think this is kind of the things that I think we need to think about when we think about just improving data systems. Because also another thing, we talk about data, but I like to just emphasize that we should be talking about data systems. It's not a single instrument, whether it's the LSMS or it's a Sentinel site, that will solve all questions. I mean, it will answer all questions. The challenge here, how we integrate the different pieces in a more coherent manner, and I think we're all here, probably everybody has been involved or have been using some of this data. It's the question is how we do a better job. So I'm gonna just make 7 practical recommendation, because it's nothing new, but I think it's more about the how. And I think the how probably we'll discuss a little bit more during the session if there are follow-up questions. But just let me say, and many of these things have been mentioned already. For example, better use of data. There is data out there. There's a lot of data out there. Just looking at not just a little advertising pitch here, but it's the LSMS right now is collecting panel data every year or every 2 years in a number of sub-Saharan African countries with high exposure to vulnerability and high-risk areas. So there's a lot of data out there. These are public available data on the web, microdata, downloadable, documented. So let's use them. Let's use it particularly also to learn what's the next step, what we should be using, what we should be doing in terms of how we measure resilience and how we monitor resilience. The other thing that Rosalind mentioned, but I think has been hinted, is a better integration of these data sources. So, for example, a household survey by georeferencing, you can link it to a lot of more information which is out there, which is free. So or through thematic linkages, like we just said, the poverty mapping, where it's called poverty mapping. By having a set of questions in the 2 surveys, you can link, you can try to link to a census, to a survey. So this kind of things, or something else that Rosalind mentioned, which is through sampling. So smarter sampling, just how we do surveys, how we link to the different pieces. For example, a Sentinel site could be something completely unrelated to an existing system, a statistical system, or it could be part of it. It could be somewhat linked to it and provided the additional information that we need on a more frequent basis, and not necessarily something completely detached from, for example, a larger household survey, which is run every year, every 2 years. So these are the kind of things. But more about, and this is something I hinted already through this thematic integration, expand use of survey-to-survey imputation, a synthetic panel. At the end of the day, we cannot get away from resilience and measuring resilience without better panel or pseudo-panel data set. And therefore, like in just using a combination of data, improvement of data, and improved techniques, that's something that I think we need to think about on a larger scale, and ideally in a more coherent and harmonized way. The other thing is, which kind of links to one of the points that Mark said, this is something we've been discussing in the technical working group. A lot of these things need to be tested, needs to be validated. A lot of these things, we're still at the proof of concept. What works, what doesn't work. And I think we need to do more than this. Why? Why is it linked to cost? Because by harmonizing, by providing some better methods, better protocols, I think at the end of the day, we will save money. Because if there is one thing that where there's a lot of waste of money, it's in lack of coordination, lack of standards, a lack of practices that we can all follow. And I think that's and there is I just want to, if you allow me, 2 points that I want to make, which is something, a non-respectful panel goes without being controversial. I just want to say, actually, I'll make one because I passed my time. It's like, in the opening session yesterday, there was a 2-hour opening session. I was kind of like, just keeping my watch. The first time the word measurement, by the way, the word data was not mentioned the whole 2 hours. The word measurement was mentioned after 1 hour and 56 minutes. So I think to me, that reflects the issue. That reflects the problem that we have. If data and measurement and metrics comes 3 minutes before the end, I think we're not doing a good job at promoting a data agenda.